Cool. So yeah, welcome everybody. Thought we'd look back at some of the earliest pre-pro art for the game just to kick things off, and then we'll dive into the Occultist. I can show you guys where I'm at, and then yeah, we can just basically do the same loose Q&A and hangout thing as last time. This isn't really a radio show, and we don't have an agenda or anything, so we'll just roll with it. So Tyler's here, and we've called up Keir, who's one of our programmers. Alright, let me take a drink of water.
Stay hydrated.
Okay, so this was our first look at town / start screen stuff. Hadn't quite figured out, I think, some of the line style and how loose I want it to be with the coloring. It was actually going to be ISO at one point. You can see here it was like way cuter when I was first brainstorming this, like, I don't know, I think 3 or 4 years ago. It evolved to this.
Cool. That brings back some memories.
Yeah.
Holy cow, yeah.
I know, isn't that funny?
I still want to do that, actually. But that looks like... We already knew that we wanted to have 4... Oh, you should go back to that one, actually. The little...
The little dudes?
Yeah, the little dudes. I guess you're... Well, I'm watching 40 seconds late or whatever, but we kind of were fixated on the 4 people early on, right? I guess because it's kind of like a classic Ultima Party and stuff like that. And, oh yeah, there, it's back. And so, yeah, I remember we were going to, like, rotate. We were coming up with ideas like, okay, well, depending on who's in the front, then they attack at different strength, and so you might want to rotate around. It was very board gamey, kind of mechanical. And ultra cute.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, Keir.
Oh.
Everybody, this is Keir Miron. He's one of our programmers. So yeah, it was this crazy, almost tile-based board game thing for a while, and yeah, you'd spin these guys around. It was kind of weird. And then we kind of came up with this approach that we're using now, but it just wasn't quite as refined. Tyler, are you the one typing like a crazy person?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Your mic is picking it up.
I'll type quietly.
So you can see some early enemies and stuff. Not all enemies in the game are skeletons. That was just like, it's just been our sort of jumping off point, is like the crypts sort of level with skeletons, but we assure you there are other monsters. So initially we thought we'd do it all 4-3, and that was just a dumb idea. This is the first kind of combat mock-up about how we sort of thought things would work. Are you looking at the combat mock-up now, Tyler, or are you still delayed?
I'm looking at the camping now.
Oh, okay, right. I'll have to go a little slower. So yeah, this is a combat mock-up that I've got up on my screen here. You can kind of see how the combat system just first got prototyped and storyboarded. There we go.
Brad? Yeah, I'm seeing the black and whites now.
Okay, cool. I actually think people on the who are just watching don't have the leg, but anyway, we're newbie to this. Here's another. Yeah, I think they see it in real time, so we're just being stupid, waiting.
You know what you're doing in real time, so basically it's just for Keir and I, and
yeah,
we have to imagine what you were talking about as it's happening. And then, okay.
I think so. I think that's the Twitch TV trick. If anybody in chat knows, you can feel free to help us not suck at this. Yeah, this was kind of the furthest we got with the with this idea of it was going to be like a total roguelike, like, you know, with the iconified monsters and everyone's in these little parties of 4, and we'd have tiny versions of the guy, and then you'd sort of have the side view portrait kind of stuff kick in on the lower left. And then that's what eventually led us to go full side view. So it's funny because the game was actually totally different for a while, at least before it was a game.
I know I was really attached at the beginning to I've been wanting to make kind of like an Ultima-like for a long time, and I thought that this would be it, where, okay, we take all these cool ideas about Darkest Dungeon and then do it as Ultima-like. But then, yeah, it just started feeling like, remember when we talked about combat, and I was like, okay, there's going to be tactical 2D positioning and all that kind of stuff. And then it certainly would have been cool as well, but I think that it almost felt like it was becoming two games at that point.
Yeah, exactly. We had this like side view combat thing, and then top view for navigation, or we would flip it sometimes. Yeah, but I think it was stronger to go full side view with everything. I think it's all unified now, and it feels pretty good. So yeah, that's that. And here we are in Wallpaper Land.
Yeah, one thing I'd say about the side view too is I know from a design perspective, but I didn't want to lose the strategy and the tactics involved in the combat. And so once we basically were able to kind of work through the idea that from side view you could still accomplish a lot of those things, that's when I really got behind it. And now, I mean, like today I was working on combat stuff, and it's amazing how much cool stuff there is just with that, basically the 1D positioning. It's still, once I knew that, oh yeah, there's tons of stuff we can do, then it got really exciting. And it's nice that it looks different and is, I guess, somewhat innovative, so it helps us maybe stand out just because it looks different.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's cool. I think it's cool to do a side view roguelike. Okay, I've leaked the Man-at-Arms for long enough. So, the Occultist. Initially I was kind of thinking like 17, almost 1800s gentleman kind of thing. But I did a drawing, like a really loose sketch to try and figure it out, and just felt like it was way off point. And I think, Tyler, you said it, you felt like he was wearing a costume or something. So then I kind of moved him more into a medieval kind of vibe. But I didn't really feel like it was gelling yet. His weapon was always going to be the skull with the candle on top, to sort of help with his like summoning or whatever. And a lot of great thinkers and scholars had skulls on their shelves, so I thought it was a cool call out. But he still feels kind of European and not quite, I don't know, the sort of like great grandson of Abdul al-Hazred or whatever. So I sort of threw this over to the guys earlier today. I was like, is the later Jack the Ripper-esque kind of thing a cool direction to go, or is it just not hitting? Because I didn't really feel it, but I wanted to go in that direction just because I thought it would be neat. But we all agreed it was good to go medieval. So then I kind of just took the plunge and went full Persian with him. I went full Persian and kind of added the head wrap and made sure the dagger popped. Changed the neck. The shirt thing was a big deal, going from this almost like, very English tie sort of thing to just this straight up
nice
shirt and like necklace thing or whatever. Suddenly kind of helped ground it. And I still think, I think he looks badass and pretty cool in his face, although it still needs a lot of work, I think. So yeah.
The nose is cool, yeah, like kind of a really sharp nose. A hawk nose, as Robert E. Howard would say.
Yes.
By the way, people in the chat are loving the facial hair.
Oh, nice.
Sweet.
Yeah, basically, I mean, I really love Lovecraft. We're not making a game about Lovecraft stuff, but I think these little subtle nods are cool. I mean, he's an occultist, that's fine, but who's to say who he's related to, and if you know about that?
I don't know if I would say our nods are subtle, but, I mean, we're totally embracing the...
Well, they're very subtle.
Yeah. As subtle as the dude on the map in trailer number 2.
Yeah. I mean, for me, shooting yourself in the face while tentacles erupt from your mansion, it's a subtle nod. It's just a little wink it's a twinkle in the eye.
They're subtle tentacles, right?
Sorry?
Yeah, exactly. We can see how some people might think that Lovecraft was inspiring the game. We can understand that.
Common misconception.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hey, Kelvin, are you on yet? Are you in the chat? I guess I won't see the result for 30 seconds, but I'm just curious if he's on yet.
Well, you might be like a stealth person in the chat.
I know. I think he might
He said he was going to be on.
Ask us the hardball questions from an anonymous ID. Subtle tentacles, nice.
So I can just quickly compress layers. I don't have to repaint everything. So next time we do the stream, I'll start one from scratch and I'll bomb, and it'll be really embarrassing. But I'll do that just for variety's sake.
Yeah, I definitely was watching you do this today as you sketched it up out of the side of my eye.
And you were, I mean, what you were saying earlier, I guess, might be useful to them, is they were kind of like, you were saying there's false starts, and you try out ideas, like those things you just showed where you tried a couple different takes on him. It's hard to figure out how to use this hour, so it was like, is that interesting to people to see if you have to redraw something a couple times, or do they want to see you polish it,
Yeah, or like you just look like an incompetent freak, and people start doubting your ability to finish the game. I don't know. Is that just me? Is that going too far?
Well, that might be...
Is that on par with the subtle nod?
Then again, I'll let the chatters talk for themselves. I mean, yeah, maybe if you draw a line in the wrong area, the whole Kickstarter is going to bomb, and we'll know it's your fault.
Close up on the mustache. It's pretty rough. I mean...
We might want to save that for later. You don't start the stream with a stream stopper.
Full-fledged caster. Okay, yeah, let's talk about this guy. Let's talk about this class. Some of the things that we were sort of tossing around for ideas on what he could do.
I commit to nothing. No, I'm just kidding.
No, we're not.
No,
we're not.
just,
he's
I'm
not
I'm
fully
joking.
designed, but let's talk about where we could go with him. Kind of cool.
Yeah, totally. I think what a lot of you are saying is along the lines, like probably back row ranged DPS, like you're saying, but there's a lot of cool stuff we can do. I mean, I think there's almost more cool stuff we can do with him than we can possibly do, so we want to shape him a bit, but certainly tapping into those occult energies is important. And so his attacks, they're not going to be... I mean, you can see he's got like a dagger there, and that's probably his like emergency attack. Like if he gets pumped to the front ranks, and it's not going to be his best way of attacking, but he's probably got some pretty vicious stuff, or maybe he does some summons, or and that's good. That's good justification for ranged, because maybe he's back row and he can summon something over in the enemies, whether front row or back row, and get them. We were talking about some kind of creepy stuff today. Like, Keir, what were you thinking?
We were talking about the idea of like summoning like tentacles, for lack of a better term, from the underworld to attack the enemies you're facing.
Yeah, they can come up as like roots or damage them, or and then I can't remember who said it, but like if he gets it wrong, they come up underneath one of the party and just completely demolish their sanity.
Yeah, I think that was Kelvin's idea of like if he's tapping into these energies, then like it's a really high upside, but occasionally things go horribly wrong.
Yeah, like how we've talked about the Plague Doctor will have like risky heals, basically. This guy should have like risky magic, so it's like there's always a chance he could like fuck up the incantation, and whoops, I shouldn't say that, but screw up the incantation and something horrible happens.
Yeah, and that, I think, like that ranged kind of, because basically it's indirect fire in a way, like if you pull a tentacle up in the back row of the enemy. And then we also talked, I don't know if this will go in, but this would be pretty cool, about maybe him tapping in and doing some pretty strong buffs to the rest of the party, maybe to the point of like he almost takes over their body for an attack or something, and maybe it does tons of damage, but kind of leaves a bit of a lasting effect on the party member that he did it to, so I mean, it's no fun suddenly becoming the occultist's puppet, but I think that kind of like big finishing moves would be really interesting, where it's a skill that you just can't afford to use all the time because of what it'll do, but as a finisher to get you out of a jam or maybe take down a boss, it could be pretty cool.
Also, Tyler, do you think it would be good if you were taking people you didn't really care about with him into the dungeon?
That would be pretty awesome, actually.
Or if you do it to the same character too often, they get like a thrall quirk, where they're kind of just like shit unless he's controlling them. So yeah, like you turn one of your other characters into his pet, basically. We're not doing
Yeah.
that.
Well, yeah. Don't take a red shirt. Don't invest a lot in their upgrading.
And just let
take
them
down.
suck their life force for like the whole dungeon, and then just spit them out at the end.
Yeah, that's
Trash him. Get a new guy.
That's the kind of stuff, honestly, from a systems design perspective. I would love to see that kind of stuff happen where maybe you don't even design it that way intentionally, but people realize, oh, they can put this together with this, and what a great little kind of emergent narrative, right? Like we took this guy down and nobody made friends with him because everybody knew that he was basically expendable meat shield, right?
He's food for the occultist.
Yeah.
We got a pretty good move idea or input from the chat, saying that we should shuffle the enemy's positions as one of the attacks. Maybe that might not be for the occultist, but I think that's pretty cool.
The bounty hunter definitely is built around that, but that's not to say that other characters can't do it as well. You know, we probably want to spread those abilities around.
Yeah, actually, there was one or two other ones that I had kind of some of that crowd control, and for different things. Like the bounty hunter, it's a very physical justification. Like, yeah, he hooks you and pulls you forward. But yeah, something like this with some form of sorcery or something could just be this really weird like effect on the enemy. And yeah, a couple crowd controls could be cool, because I think the occultist is definitely one of those characters that I think is not going to do that well with, you know, the Vestal and the. I mean, we don't have all that stuff worked out, but I think some natural like or dislike between class archetypes I think would be cool, because let's face it, the occultist and the Vestal are pretty much at opposite ends of the religion spectrum. So
yeah, I mean, without even intending it, I feel like we've almost achieved this like balance in our total number of characters between, you know, pagan wild people who live outside the rules, and then this sort of like very compatible group of like Vestal, Man-at-Arms, Crusader, you know, like all the sort of traditional noble stuff. It's kind of weird how that split up and kind of just happened.
Mm-hmm. Well, and yeah, it's fun to let the classes organically, because there's sort of two ways to go about it design-wise. Is like you go, okay, we need a front rank specialist. Okay, we need a back rank specialist. And we've been more approaching it from what are cool classes, and then of course you look at the whole thing and say, oh man, we got, you know, oops, we made 15 front rank specialists. But that hasn't happened. I think it's been pretty cool that things are sorted out, and you know, we may find out, oh, there are more of one type than another, and that's fine, because there's always ways to expand, and also maybe that just makes your choices about, okay, which front rank specialist do I want to bring more important. You know, anytime you try to overbalance everything, it can get a little bland sometimes. So, but I think it's naturally fallen into place a bit.
You guys have to watch the chat, because I can't. Otherwise, I can't draw.
Earlier in the chat, somebody was suggesting that you put a gem in his hat.
Oh, right up here? Shpoink.
Though the delay in the stream is going to make that right here a little bit tough to judge.
No, it's only for us. Apparently, if you're watching it, it's all synced up. Next gen game will be an RTS.
I like the.
I don't know. That sounds, yeah. Next gen game will be an RTS. That sounds good.
It'll be called
like
the
how
Darkest Tower Defense.
Someone said my car mechanic is the occultist. That's fine. Yeah, we had a little debate today about actually whether to make him a woman also. And that's kind of interesting, just because I would say the thing that probably swayed us is there's a class we'd like to do eventually, obviously, you know, maybe down the line, that just almost really needs to be a woman. And so if this one was, if the occultist was a woman, it would kind of infringe on that a little bit. But those are the kind of interesting decisions you have to think about, is like, okay, what really, and I think we've erred on the side of just feeling what comes naturally for each class, you know, without trying to have a huge agenda.
He can read envelopes without opening them. Yeah. He works at the White House.
I suppose this guy is almost like the dude in the House of Ruin trailer, the ancestor. This guy still hasn't learned so much that he regrets it yet.
Yeah, he still thinks it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm dabbling in dark magics. Oh, great. Can dabble away until, it's like dabbling in heroin. Not a good idea.
No. When I went through that crazy stint of watching like every episode of Intervention, I learned a lot about heroin.
Ugh.
If a character dies, do you keep their gear? So if I give my... that's interesting, like their trinkets and stuff that they're carrying with them. I think we talked... Go ahead.
No, that's fine.
Well, I don't know, this is a long time ago, we haven't really talked about it in a while, but I think the last time we settled on playing with the idea that you'd have to sort of carry their body out in your inventory if you wanted to keep their stuff. But I may be wrong on that.
No, I think that was something we talked about. It could have something to do with the manner in their death. So, like, if they die in the middle of a combat and you retreat in the middle of that combat, then we might treat that differently than if they die, you're able to finish the combat and then, of course, retrieve their gear. And then, so there's a bit of, like, what makes logical sense, but there's also... We don't want you to feel like, sometimes people die from bad luck. They miss their attack and get nailed or whatever. So it's also something we don't want to make it where, like, having a person die sucks anyway. We might not want to make it so they die and you lose the stuff and so that we'll see how that goes when we play.
Yeah, we've always sort of said that the death has to be something that you really feel in your heart of hearts that you brought on yourself, not just because it's a tough game or a cheap game.
Yeah, there is a limited, who asked this? Limited inventory. It was right in front of me. Oh yeah, Crow. Yeah, you have a limited inventory in the dungeon, and that's actually a big mechanic where you're trading off kind of the supplies you bring and then the stuff you can haul out. So when you get out of the dungeon, I don't know, realm inventory probably won't be limited or not really significant. You're not going to have to sit there and go, oh man, do I keep this or this when you're out of the dungeon. But in the dungeon, yeah, we want you to, that's definitely a conscious mechanic that we want you playing with. Nice.
I love that Madam Mim. I just watched Sword in the Stone with my 3-year-old. I had to explain why Madam Mim was so crazy for like 6 days afterwards.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like, but why? Was she dancing, Daddy? So, Keir, what have you been working on lately? Cool.
Did we lose him?
I don't know. No, he's still in there.
No, we must have lost Keir. Dun 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 dun. Keir, did your mic go? Wow, Keir had enough of the stream. That was it.
Okay. Death Phoenix here is asking if you could talk a little bit more about the affliction system and how you're implementing it.
Hello.
Hey.
Oh, he's back.
That was weird. I just re-plugged in my mic.
Yeah, I've had that same thing happen.
But I have been working on the town, getting all that stuff set up, getting hero generation set up, and all the different buildings, and kind of getting that into a good place.
Dat town.
Yeah, Dat has seemed to be.
Is that
pretty
the thing?
Chat. It's a thing. I don't know exactly from where. I like it though.
Tyler, do you want to talk about the affliction system stuff? There's a question about it.
Yeah, sorry, I refreshed my channel and I lost a bunch of the chat. Well, yeah, I mean, the affliction system's kind of a huge subject, but I mean, the basics are that, obviously you guys know that the characters have stress, and that's, we've gamified the stress aspect, but, into a meter, as you see in some of the footage and screenshots and stuff. But what that does, there's a lot of things that does. So like when they kind of hit their max stress, they sort of have a check where they, it's really kind of a gut check where you see if that, can they withstand the stress and keep functional, or does it manifest in an affliction? And there's different afflictions that we're playing with, and they're basically, I don't know about, it's not so much vices, it's more like the different ways that people respond to stress. So obviously we get a lot of mileage out of fear. That's a really good one and has obvious effects. But people also respond to stress in a lot of different ways, where they get manic, or they abusive, or they just get super greedy, or those sorts of things. And I think each of those has some kind of different gameplay effects. So some of which are even positive. Like if someone turns abusive, maybe they're going to do more damage, but the extent at which they behave in an abusive manner could cause problems within the party, as well as them kind of doing things on their own. So that you kind of get triggered into an affliction state, and then over time, the characters will develop basically an affliction history. So someone who's prone to depression or fear, is maybe not going to have an equal chance of becoming abusive or greedy or irrational. Just kind of like real life, I guess. We're not really making light of it. It's just more that people tend to have ways that they act out, and then those ways tend to be the common way. And so over time, your character will develop kind of a predisposition to that and tend to react that way the most. And then those have different effects in combat and camping and stuff like that. And then so there's a lot more to that than just that, but I don't know, we're kind of teasing it out, I guess. But your afflictions are somewhat persistent. So like if you're in a crazy irrational state and then you finish the dungeon, it's not like, whew, everything's better now. You go into town, they're still afflicted, and that's where some of those interesting decisions come in, where you're like, oh, crap, what do I do? Do I take him back down to the dungeon in the state, or am I going to park him in the tavern for a while? So there's kind of a cost of healing there and stuff like that. Cost meaning, opportunity cost, not just to simply like pay gold and be done with it. And then that factors into some of the awesome town mechanics. And so now that's a whole I guess thing where, okay, this person, they might be prone to depression, but they're also prone to drinking, and drinking very effectively reduces their depression, but now they're inebriated when they start the dungeon. These things start happening. We want you to deal with that kind of stuff.
Favorite HP Lovecraft story? Mine is I like Shadow over Innsmouth. I've read them all multiple times, but I just like Shadow over Innsmouth. I don't know why. Something about that escape sequence is so awesome.
Yeah, we saw a good comment today about Rats on the Walls, which was pretty sweet. In the Kickstarter, I mean. That's so good. The rats. Especially if you hear Wayne June read it.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta get the June going on.
Yeah, I mean, our narrator, of course, Wayne June, who's awesome. We stumbled upon him from listening to an H.P. Lovecraft audiobooks. And, yeah,
it was convenient.
Well, honestly, guys, it's like one of those things. I mean, yeah, probably the listeners will get a kick out of this, but, Chris and I were just thinking, it'd be awesome if the game had a narrator, and what if it was it'd be awesome if it was like how Wayne June reads those stories so well. And then it suddenly occurred to us
he really does. He really reads them so well. I wonder who we could get to read them as well as him.
But it wasn't immediate, right? We talked about it, and then in terms of how can we find someone like Wayne June, and then
and then it was like, why don't we just ask him?
And I remember you emailing, and then when he responded, you're like, Wayne June responded.
I was so excited that he even said hello. He could have said hello, get lost, and it would have been like, we nailed it.
Well, it's kind of interesting when you're creating. I mean, I guess you forget that other people are out there doing the same thing, and in Wayne's case, he makes a living off of reading stuff for people. So, when we asked him to read something for us and we offered to pay him, it's a mutual win.
I still can't believe it.
So, yeah, it's funny. But I love, listening to his. So I like Rats on the Walls is just such a clean story in some ways, such classic, interesting setup, weird, creepy, and then ends in some ridiculous way that makes almost no sense, but is cool.
Someone just chimed in about a purple robe. It's not a bad idea, but I want to avoid using really loud colors on the characters too much. I want to keep it just for trim and accents, so I think I'm going to try out a little purple on his undershirt.
One question that came in the chat, Chris, was other than Mignola, who are your other influences artistically?
Well, I mean,
That's
artistically is a lot different than for this game. Like, this game looks this way, and I love working this way. It's a lot of fun, but it's not really, like, I wouldn't say it's my style. Like, I'm doing it because it works really well for the game. I think it's, like I said, it's a lot of fun and it's production friendly. So on this game, my influences are definitely Mignola. Guy Davis is another big influence. Victor Kalbachev, Duncan Fegredo, even Zalozabal, who's this like Spanish cartoonist who's done like Genetic Grunge and Slum Nation and stuff. He's pretty awesome. So I looked at a lot of his stuff too.
Who are your influences not in the game?
I like Matt Dixon. I like really like softer painterly stuff. Daryl Mandrick probably. Yeah.
Please type the names. Okay.
Okay, sure. Give me a second. Daryl Mandrick. Dixon. God, Davis. There we go. So this is, I don't know if there's anybody here who wasn't here yet or last time, but it's kind of basically the same workflow. I'm just trying to, it felt like this would be a better backdrop to the discussion than just starting from scratch and sort of all the failures that can come along with that.
One interesting question is if the hand fire color is the same as the torch color in the game.
It might be right now. It's not something I'm thinking about really at this point. But I like the orange, the sort of orange cast to it generally for the whole game. I kind of prefer that to the pure red. Give a little bit of orange in there.
That's cool.
There's that tentacle out of his satchel. That's awesome.
That is funny. A tentacle peeking out. That's a good idea.
If this was like a cartoon show, it would be like his buddy, you know, like the comic relief. You know, what's the tentacle up to nowadays? You know?
I didn't read the last two letters, so I thought it was coming out of his stash. That was really funny.
You thought that was a euphemism?
Yeah.
That was his mustache. Hey, Crow, yeah, we actually were talking about a camping idea where maybe he does some great healing in camping, but your torch doesn't refill all the way. I think that kind of trade-off is cool stuff and fits right in with his theme. You know, he's like tapping into the eldritch powers, but there's always a downside. My satchel ate it. That's pretty good.
Dude, where's my spells? Someone's asking about how are we planning on implementing stats as a whole, because we mentioned last time that we aren't doing, you know, conventional leveling in the sense that you accumulate experience and then level up and choose an ability and kind of move on from there. They kind of want to know about how the upgrading might work or how we plan for character growth. Might be cool to riff on for, I don't know, 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay, sure. Yeah, from the beginning, we've kind of wanted to do something a little like different, just because it feels like it fits the game. We may have talked about this a little bit in the last stream. I can't remember, but there's going to be some skills that characters have that basically. So it is upgradable. Like your attack abilities, your armor and weapon, those are upgradable, and you go to town and you train them basically. But what we've been playing around with is that, at least to some degree, it's not all built on a leveling system. In other words, maybe you can go in and pay a bunch of gold and upgrade him to like the best sword skills, you know. But what you can't upgrade is their resolve, which is kind of like a measure of their veteran experience and that their ability to withstand the stresses of adventuring, basically. So, so that the only way you can increase your resolve is by completing quests, and so that part is like, I guess, akin to experience. But the difference being that like some of the other stuff, you can buy the finest weapon and you can train with the finest people, but there's no substitute for experience. So you're going to be kind of, what we think this will do is create an interesting thing where maybe you could equip the newest recruit with the best stuff, but are you really going to want to do it until they prove themselves? You know, like you could spend all that and go down and just have a really bad run and they're done. So there's going to be a bit of a natural inclination to kind of like invest slowly over time as they demonstrate that they're able to survive. And then what I was going to say is there is a progression, because basically for the different areas that you go, you can take different difficulty quests. So like, let's say you're going to go to the Cove, you could choose like a low difficulty Cove quest or a high difficulty Cove quest or something in between. And so you're going to want to basically bring characters of higher resolve and accordingly higher upgraded skills into the higher quests. So so there is a progression, but basically the difference being it's not purely earned from experience, but certain pieces are, and those are kind of the intractable things that there's no substitute for experience, I guess.
I think that's the message we're trying to deliver with the the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we actually kind of want you to feel that trade-off of, oh, I'm going to train this guy up to the most, and well, he's trained up to the most, so clearly I'll bring him along with this party on a hard difficulty quest. Oh god, he freaked out at the first weird thing that he saw. Oops, you know, it's kind of a self-balancing thing.
It's a skull he's holding. The line art is still pretty loose. I just wanted to jump ahead and try out some color stuff.
Is that a human skull?
Yeah, it will be. Right now it just doesn't. It looks like a pretty bad. Sweet art. Yeah.
Hey, someone had a question about the classes. There's 15 class squares. I don't know if I'm pronouncing right. Tilthel. Notice there are 15 class squares on the home Kickstarter thing, but there were 12 slots. Did we add 3 more? Yeah, those are things like, I tell you, keeping track of all the classes is actually the hardest part about the entire thing right now.
It's getting ridiculous.
Well, it's kind of like ones that we've announced and confirmed, and there's ones that we've confirmed internally but haven't announced, but we didn't consider part of the stretch goals for whatever reason. And then there's ones that we announced when the stretch goals were hit, and those are classified as stretch goals, even though we haven't technically announced 1 or 2 of the characters that come before. So that grid basically shows like what we intend, I guess, committing to in terms of what we intend to produce right now is that number of characters. And there's a couple that we haven't, we just haven't revealed. Like they were kind of in the core ones and we just haven't talked about them, or we haven't confirmed it officially or whatever.
I will say it's pretty funny that the backers in the comments are usually right on the ball with like the class stuff. As soon as we hint at a name, they're like, this is what it is. Could be this, and within about 10 comments, they've kind of almost figured it out. They had the Arab thing, or the Persian influence, like, down this afternoon, you know?
Nice.
Off-color white robe. Yes, that's an interesting thought, and I very well might play with this guy substantially after the stream is over. The thing about the white robe is that I feel like I've already pushed that envelope with the leper. He's got, where is he here? He's kind of got a lockdown on white, and so I'm worried if I do that again and you pair them next to each other, it'll start looking a little strange, because white is such a bouncy color, especially given how dark everything else is on screen. So I'm trying to stay away from it.
There's Kelvin.
There's Kelvin, yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, Ludophonics Kelvin, so.
He was pushing that minecart ride hard
this
this afternoon. I felt like I was in House of Cards getting lobbied by Frank Underwood. Have you thought about a minecart ride?
I know we almost do have to put one in, but if it can be done as a curio, that would be awesome.
That's one hell of a curio.
Yeah. Well, it's a minecart with a mysterious lever, right? It's
So you just
right.
get in and
in just a big dialogue box that is like pull the lever or don't pull the lever, and of course you're gonna pull the lever.
I mean,
This idea needs some work.
I was considering teleporting through the map, not in the world sense, but in the practical sense. And the minecart that goes to another minecart location might be a good curio.
Like fucking fast travel, basically.
Yeah, but you don't know where it's going to go. Similar to like in Rogue Legacy, where you get on that teleporting thing and then end up somewhere random.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Alright, I'm gonna switch back to doing line art for this guy.
I still think the best minecart is probably Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom arcade. That was a good minecart.
That's better than Donkey Kong?
Well, I guess nostalgically for me, it's like you have to go high speed and then you're whipping guys and then you're trying to figure out don't take the track that ends and then you got to make a jump and then you can't oversteer it and it was just cool.
Yeah, I've never played that Indiana Jones game, so I just know people love that Donkey Kong on the Super Nintendo.
Mm.
I'll prove to everyone that this is in fact a human skull. Just give me a few minutes. Get to the cart.
Yeah, quick. Start drawing the cart, Chris.
No, get to the cart, like get to the chopper. Except it's the English, it's the English version, so it's all sophisticated. That's fucking hilarious. Get to the cart.
Yeah, did Kelvin left a
Yeah.
minecart bomb?
Yeah, and then he's just out. Just
He's
drops
like
it.
a pro
He's
troller,
out.
right?
Joke's on him. He's coding it, so. It'd have to be a pretty big minecart for all of them to fit in it.
Well, it'd be a conveniently sized one, to say the least. How interactive will the backdrops be? Think Tank wants to know about exploration a little bit. Well, we've got a lot of interactive objects that pepper the hallways. There's a lot of different effects that can come from them, ranging from, just loot boxes all the way up to, like permanent or semi-permanent quirks being applied to characters because they really shouldn't have read that book or whatever. So there's a fair amount of those in the mix. The actual background itself that scrolls behind the characters is not really all that interactive. It's kind of there just for the tone, the setting, to sort of immerse you in what's going on. The interactive stuff is pretty it's pretty obvious what you can work on and what is just part of the background, I think.
Yeah, I think that's one we're still kind of talking about a little bit. Just like,
Yeah.
You can go the Dragon's Crown route and have stuff that, oh, look, it's a little brick, and if you notice the brick and click on it, you get something. But, we're not sure that that's really what we're going for. It's more about finding these interesting curios and deciding what to do about it. Or maybe a person, in an afflicted state. I mean, that's a great example of, let's say someone's in the greedy, afflicted state, and you pass by something that looks potentially valuable but also dangerous, and you're saying, I'm going to leave that one alone. With low hit points, I'm going to, oops, the greedy guy just, grabbed it. And in doing so, triggered a trap and,
Yeah, I mean, even if you had a grave robber in your party, it would be cool if the guy's greedy, he just auto opens the chests, right? And your thief can't even stop him. He just blunders past. He's like, I want it all.
Yeah, and then maybe he gets the stuff and it actually goes away. He stashes it away where...
He just steals from you?
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking is you might find an item and then the guy's just like, I'll take that, and it disappears and never to be seen again, basically because he stashed it.
Yeah, that's cool. Same as if you get a guy in town where it's like, you come back to town, it's like, oh, so-and-so lost 200 of your your gold, because whenever they go gamble, it's on it's on your dime basically.
Yep. Yeah, and it's gonna be fun to see. I mean, we want when you're afflicted. I mean, there's negative effects generally, and there can be positive effects too. But it's predominantly bad to be in an afflicted state and causes problems and makes you make different decisions and stuff like that. And I think a big thing that we don't know about this game, and I sure hope it works, is how tolerant people will be, because it's really a different feeling from that, I guess, gold bricking style of making sure your party's always at 100% health and no one's, doing anything wrong and everyone's perfect and no diseases and no poison. We want you just, I mean, basically we're trying to achieve that state of, oh man, this guy's greedy, this one's abusive, this guy's trying to keep the whole party together. If we can just get through this last corridor in battle and get back to town and give people some R&R, and we think it'll be fun, but it's not going to be fun for everyone.
One of the questions in the chat was which class is our personal favorite.
What do you think here? What's your favorite?
Am I allowed to say something that's not announced?
No.
Well, no.
Well, my real favorite's one that's not announced. And I'm just going to take a quick... I'd probably say Jester. The Jester's my favorite right now. Just because I value the more ridiculous, as far as a person in a
I worked hard on
RPG
that, man. What are you
party.
saying?
What's
Like the idea that he might... What?
Oh, no, go ahead. Yeah.
I just that he seems the most unique as far as class types in RPGs from the ones we have announced.
All right, what about you, Tyler?
Oh, man. No, I got to consult the list of the announced classes.
If it was
and make
your
sure.
favorite, you would know.
I'm not one to... I always like to have multiple favorites.
Oh,
They're
you
like
get half
salad.
fries and half salad, don't you?
Yeah. I know. No.
You're one of
quarter
those
yam
happen.
fries,
Yeah,
quarter fries, quarter green salad, and quarter Caesar salad. That's just
with
the
a
way it
side
is.
of the soup, just in case it's really good.
Okay.
Tiltil says 4 unannounced classes. He's mocking us with air quotes. And we know 3 of them are Grave Robber, Merchant, Lord Class, and X.
I like the Houndmaster. I'm pretty excited about the Houndmaster. Yeah, let me see here. I'm scrolling down. Yeah, Chris makes fun of me because I really like dogs, so I like Houndmaster. The core 4 that we've done all the footage with are still pretty awesome. I think the Plague Doctor is so cool just visually, but Highwayman is just awesome. He's just fun, He's a cool. I like that dashing kind of anti-hero bit to him.
I never shut up about the Merchant, apparently. I had no idea.
Kelvin, are you still on? What's your favorite announced class? Let's see. Jester.
Do we have like a list of all the announced
Yeah,
classes?
it's right up on the Kickstarter.
Yeah, I put it on the Kickstarter.
It's a good idea.
As much for my.
That's the Mega
side.
Man looking thing is our.
Yeah, that's like Gutsman
That's
and
the official what's
Yeah.
been announced.
It's super
Oh, cool.
official.
Because
Kelvin, the Hellion.
yeah, like
Nice.
my favorite would have been the Merchant, but I wasn't sure if that was announced.
We've talked about it too often for it to be even remotely unannounced.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, me and Kelvin liked the Highwayman, but I guess he's breaking the faith.
Hellion is pretty
I still
awesome.
like the Highwayman, man. I don't know what it is. I like that poem when I was a kid. I like that character. He's
Mhm.
pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know. I like the Jester too. It'd be interesting to see how they play. That's the thing. Like, just appearance-wise is only one part of it,
Question for you guys: what made you guys choose the first four heroes we worked on? Because they were already decided when I joined the project. So it seems like Highwayman's a popular fellow to you two, so it makes sense why he was one of the first.
I think it was more like, well, I mean, we needed a knight, and so we got a knight. I think that was the first character we did, and then that's when we really just started talking about, like, look, we're trying so hard to be a little different in all these other areas. we can't just phone it in and be like knight, thief, wizard,
Archer.
archer. Yeah. So I think that's.
Do we even have a bow right now?
We don't have a bow right now. We have a guy with a pistol. He's the highwayman. Again, another reason why he should be your favorite.
Hmm?
Yeah, Tyler.
I'm confused. I like him. He's cool. I even
Are we anti-bow?
No, we're not anti.
No,
I don't
no.
believe we've issued a formal stance on our
No.
feelings on medieval weapons. But
No, actually, I shoot bows. I love bows. For some reason, it just hasn't happened yet.
One of these guys needs a bow.
the original Bard had a bow. Here, let me load that up just for the hell of it.
I'm probably the only person on the stream and otherwise who still wants the original Bard. Like the Jester's amazing, but I personally prefer the original Bard. Yes.
Oh.
It's okay. So yeah, this was
the Bard turned into the Jester then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to show too much on either side. This was the original Occultist and the original Bard.
Did that Explorer window spoil any unannounced classes?
Whoa, look at all this craziness. What is all that? Thanks, Chris. Those screen grabs are going to be everywhere now. That's fine, though, actually.
It's cool. So yeah, we used to have a bow. Let me get rid of these. I just didn't know which file it was.
Yeah.
That's fine, actually. We're actually not trying to be... It's not like we're trying to be that secretive. It's just that it's interesting to... It's far more interesting for us, and I think for other people, to dribble some of the stuff out over time. And it also gives us time to think and make moves based on, how people respond to a class and, stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Plus, it's like, we need to sort of... The Kickstarter campaign arguably is a form of entertainment for the backers, and we want to make sure that there's enough stuff to go around, so there's always something fresh, with each new update. So, I mean, we could have just said, here's all the character classes, see you later in a month or something. But, I don't know. It's a lot more fun to do this, but we're definitely not doing it out of some misplaced sense of trying to be cool or markety.
Yes.
Yeah, the original Bard does look like Green Arrow, and the story behind that is that I have a friend named Chad Smith who's a very, very talented storyboard artist, and we got into this heated argument when we first met at a bar over, like, Green Arrow, because we're really cool guys. So we were arguing in a bar about Green Arrow.
What kind of argument?
Just like trying to decide if he was cool or not, and Chad's position was that he was absolutely cool, and my position was that he was probably one of the worst superheroes ever made. A position I only adopted to antagonize Chad. But it became this running thing with him, so I thought it would be really awesome if the Bard looked like Green Arrow, but I tried to make it look like the way I thought it would be kind of cool, or whatever. And then I just cut it all together, because you know what? Green Arrow sucks.
I'm not familiar with Green Arrow, but by his name, I'm not.
Oh, he's like a Robin.
I don't have
thing.
the best first impression.
That TV show actually isn't. I don't know. I don't want to get into a critique of media. Who am I to critique anything? But he's not necessarily one of my favorite heroes in the DC universe.
I think. Well, I think
that's why.
This is worth pointing out, however, that Chris is a Batman fanatic, and so everything's measured to Batman, right?
Well, I don't think you have to work too hard to measure Green Arrow to Batman. You give Batman a bow and paint him green, and you have Green Arrow.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the reason I never heard of him is because I grew up only caring about Marvel.
And that is, I mean, it's hard to hear that.
It's a product of the times, man.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, like Hawkeye. This guy looks like a bootleg Hawkeye to me, but I don't know which one. I mean, was Green Arrow in a beat 'em up? Captain America.
Oh no, we can't get into this. This is a bad idea.
Which one? Ludoponic? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's expert trolling right there.
Still has bread. Nice. I
So,
think yeah, one of the fun things with the classes is there's just that's why it's hard for me to choose because they're just like I'm excited to try different ones. I even like the vanilla Crusader just because he represents what the game was supposed to be in terms of well, you take your perfect knight and then put him through a whole bunch of crap and now he's this guy who's like basically trying to be right and holy and achieve all these things and maybe going after the killing the evil, but it's like he's going to be put through all the same paces and break down. It's kind of like if the rogue breaks down, it's not that surprising. It's like, well, I mean, he's doing weird things anyway. But if the bastion of goodness or whatever breaks down, it's kind of more interesting, right?
Kilson, yeah, you can email feedback at redhookgames.com. Sorry we missed your comment. Tyler and I try and get in there on the regular, but it's tricky sometimes. They get buried pretty quick.
Yeah, which
so we do all get to read them, which as somebody who doesn't respond to those emails, it's really cool to see all of them come in.
Yeah, it's such a motivator, right?
Yeah, it's also just super interesting, like the variety of, hey, it's a cool idea, and all the business ones are in the same email boat.
Sketches and studies. Yeah, I have a ton of that, Andre. Some of those ideas, though, are like, in those files that I just had up, are like monsters and stuff that we're not sure we're going to use and haven't been sort of figured out or anything like that. So I think a little later on, once we've got more of that stuff nailed down, I can definitely just open the floodgates, send out all the sketches I got.
And that is, as Mr. Pandastic says, like that is one of the reasons why we want to do the art book is for people that are interested in the development, not just the finished stuff, which is cool, but seeing some of how things got sketched out or maybe the progressions that they went through, and it's a value-added thing. Like the people that are into that, you can get it as either PDF or print, of course. That's exactly what we want to do it, and it'd be cool for us too, honestly. Like a lot of times you work on games and you kind of like in your need to survive and make a living, you go on to the next game, and I think doing the art book is actually something that'll be fun for us in the sense of getting a chance to put that together and have our own retrospective of looking, oh yeah, like even when you're showing that stuff at the beginning of today's stream, I was like, oh my god, I forgot about those things.
Yeah, I know, it's been so long. I forgot about them until I found them in preparation for the stream. Are the things like the development poll going to come in after the 14th? Yeah, we're not going to start doing development polls during the campaign. I think we'll wait until things are wrapped up and the dust settles a little bit, and then we can start in on that stuff.
Yeah, and we're trying to come thinking about different ideas. What would be cool for that stuff? I mean, one example might be kind of like what we showed here, where there was the two options for the Occultist. If we're doing stuff like that in the future with monsters or whatever, we'd love to be able to put that out. And, we might be surprised sometimes if, 80% of backers are like, oh, I prefer A, then great. That's something we might be able to do. And we've really enjoyed, I guess, the comments of people getting, excited about the game. And it's really nice just to know what people are into and what they like. So we're hoping it'll be pretty fun for both sides, just a way for us to get a little feedback during development.
Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to that. I think it'd be really cool to send out a bunch of them and just litmus test things. I mean, that was the whole reason we did the first trailer in the first place, was just to sort of get a gut check on if what we were doing would work for people and if people thought it was cool. So more feedback is good.
Kelvin was asking about if John Blanche has influenced your art.
I don't know who John Blanche is.
He's the original Games Workshop artist. Does a lot of black and whites and of like the older books
yeah, I've seen it. I must have seen his stuff then. Warhammer definitely influenced Darkest Dungeon for sure. The tabletop version, as well as like I really got a lot of enjoyment out of Warhammer Online. That was my first actual exposure to that universe and got me sort of interested in reading about it. So.
Do you guys think that the skull would be used as a weapon at all for the occultist?
Yeah, it's kind of his whole. Like I think
No,
all
like,
his like
Blunt
bonk.
trauma.
Oh, bludgeon them. I think he's too intelligent for that bludgeoning stuff.
Does the skull have teeth?
It's got an upper jaw. Here's 2 teeth right up here.
It'd be pretty good for hitting somebody with.
But it doesn't suit this guy. He's too smart, man.
It's a good trick hit. You'd think the last thing you'd think. Just
He'd probably make a weird incision with his ritual knife there, and if it comes to skull bashing time, yeah, that's kind of like the last line of defense for him.
I'd say he's afflicted when he uses his skull to bash. It's because he's his head's not in the game. One gold tooth on the skull, yeah. Yeah, I see. I start feeling like we're doing this, and I just want us. Yeah, it's so fun to show off the artwork. Like I'm just like, oh, I should load up all the old stuff and all the stuff, you know.
Yeah, there we go.
This is the Occultist, Mr. Fatso 111.
Nice. I like.
The skull should start talking to the paranoid party members. That's cool too.
Yeah.
Like that. Or he should start talking to it when he goes a little wacko, you know?
Yeah.
Like maybe the Jester's song stopped making sense and he starts like, you know, talking to the skull and asking it for like advice and, oh yes, I think the other guys are out to get me, you know.
He should bark. Like barking between him and the skull would be very fun.
Do you have a wand yet?
He doesn't. Oh, sorry, 1 second. He doesn't have a wand yet. No, I'm not giving this wizard a wand. He uses this skull.
Go.
Yeah. Okay.
Not the wand.
No. Can I have a kiss?
Go.
Okay.
Or just have magic.
Yes, he has magic. There's lots of magic.
Sorry.
See, he has red magic.
Red magic.
Yeah. And no one's even said alas poor Yorick. That's impressive.
9-9. You guys can talk while I say goodnight to my kid. We don't have to.
But no, it's kind of a dramatic moment where we're all experiencing it together.
Andre, yeah, I love the old Drawbarian. I worked with him at Nerdcore. I came on there as an art director, and he was on the team, and I was just immediately blown away by the amount of ideas and energy that he possesses. It's staggering. Like it's a weapon. If there was ever a man who needed a permit, it was Jesse.
Oh, Jesse's great.
Yeah. Needed a what? A permit?
Yeah, just he's almost illegal. Like he has so many ideas, and they come out so fast. It's overwhelming. So anyway, we liked each other and went for lunch a bunch of times, and I was really excited for him when he broke off to do the game thing, and vice versa back at me when I started doing this project. So
yeah, we'll give a shout out. He's Joust.
He did a really sweet fan art too.
He's done 2 of them, man. He's been really good. He did the leper who's like, he was yelling so hard his tongue was coming out. So crazy.
Character types you take in game affect the outcome. Yes, Lepezo, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but the character types you take to the end game are important. Insofar as basically, let's say you loved Crusaders and you made pretty good party with Crusaders and you're able to get through and kill a lot of things with a bunch of Crusaders. It's not really gonna benefit you to take only Crusaders to the end game. Is the most I can say about it right now. So there's going to be a strong game mechanical incentive to take different characters to the end game rather than just kind of figuring out what party works and doing that all the time. I guess, yeah, we're doing a lot of teasing on the end game, but I mean,
I don't think that it's a big deal to say, a little bit more about it. I mean, your objective is to seal up the darkest dungeon. The darkest dungeon is always available for you to go in when you play the game. So you can boot up the game, do the tutorial, and send them immediately into the darkest dungeon. But once you go in, you can't leave unless you either are victorious or you perish. So it's the only dungeon where it's a one-way trip. And when guys get out and they survive, they get a special quirk called something like, I don't know, Never Again, or I've Seen Too Much. And they'll never go back to the darkest dungeon. So let's say you had your favorite Crusader, you ranked him up, did the whole game, got him through the darkest dungeon. He'll be rewarded for that achievement. He'll be an awesome character, but he'll never go back in. So you can't use repeats that have already survived the darkest dungeon. You can use them to help power level your junior guys. Keep an eye on your merchants during your sort of merchant runs or whatever. But he'll never go back to the end.
Well, and it's actually more than that. It's a matter of you could bring other instances of the class, but basically
of course.
Sealing the darkest dungeon can't be done by only one party. You're going to have to send multiple parties down to do it. It's kind of, that's in line with you kind of maintaining the roster. It's kind of something that takes effort over time. And if you only keep sending Crusaders down there, it's not going to be as effective as if you can get other classes through. So basically, you'll want to bring. Eventually, you'd love to get one of every class through the darkest dungeon if you can. You don't have to.
That would be the master player's goal, though, right? Because then they'd have this complete roster of super powered up guys, and they would have beat the game.
Yeah, cool. I guess we haven't talked. We should talk more about it. I mean, it's.
I thought part of the rules is we weren't going to talk about the darkest dungeon, and this is going to remain a mystery.
Well, that's as much as we're saying about it. We're never going to leak art about the darkest dungeon until the game ships. You're never going to see it. Because it's available as soon as you start the game. So, it's the end game level, and you can get to it anytime you want. So we're not going to show you what it looks like until you get the copy of the game.
Yeah.
People are asking about how that will affect New Game Plus.
Well, you roll over into New Game Plus. Let's talk about this Crusader who's survived. He's awesome. He'll be a little OP from the experience or whatever. And you can use him to be the sort of cornerstone of your new recruit party if you like. You can use him as normal, basically, right up until endgame. He'll never go back in that house.
I wonder with New Game Plus though, if you actually roll it to New Game Plus, maybe
he shakes it off. That'd be kind of cool.
Then they can go into it again once more, or actually.
Oh they go in once more and then they get another quirk called Once More Into the Breach or whatever.
Yeah, the Never Again quirk should change into, okay, this is the last time.
But seriously, guys.
Yeah, no, really, I mean it this time.
Last time for realsies.
Honestly, we haven't really. New Game Plus might be a situation where, a lot of times New Game Plus you roll completely over, right? So
we'd want to keep. I think
you want to keep your town and your dudes that you spent all this time. I don't. We don't want to.
Who knows? Don't talk about Darkest Dungeon. Yeah. If definitely. And there's going to be some weird stuff in there, is all I can say. It's going to be cool. But that's an example where Resolve. So earlier we talked about Resolve, and the slightest thing that happens in the Darkest Dungeon.
It's going to be so insane.
If you're Resolve 1 character, it'll just blow your mind. So
So what that would look like is that you walk up, you see a monster, immediately that guy becomes afflicted. He doesn't even get to check. maybe he even develops like 3 quirks all at once, all in the same moment. Like, it'd just be a mess.
But you might want to do some scouting because you know, you don't want to send your best party down without having any idea of what's down there, and so you might need to hire some guys and, you know, send them down to the darkest dungeon to see what's going on.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked for the enemies. Anyway, we should stop talking about it, but I always love it when we're going to put stuff in the game that I can't draw on the bus, because I'll get arrested.
Oh, I thought it was like difficulty-wise.
No, I mean, like, I've already gotten
that's
some
the
looks,
problem.
you know, doing like fishmen with tentacle mouths, you know. People will like look over and be like, what is this guy's deal? Plus, it doesn't help that our office is in the east side. And
Yeah, and that, I guess, if people are wondering, you know, the areas we've announced, and then of course we hit the stretch goal with the cove, etc. So the darkest dungeon is its own area, so it doesn't overlap with what do we announce? We announced the ruins and the woods or the Weald,
yeah,
and the cove, and then we've announced that there's another one, but I don't know if we've confirmed it.
I mean, I don't see the big deal. We haven't shown any art yet, but we can talk about it. I mean,
Yeah, and then the darkest dungeon is its own area.
One question came in about the Darkest Dungeon. Does it change every time you go in? Can you scout it? I imagine it'd be procedural each time.
It's going to change. I mean, it's not going to be something you're like, okay, I got this down. I know that they throw this at me in room 1 and this at me. It's probably going to be in line with. We don't want you to know how to, like, we want you to beat it, but we don't want you to know exactly step by step what's going to happen. So
Yeah.
the only way to do that is change it up.
I mean, it's going to
Chris?
follow the same format as the other dungeons. You know, you're never going to know what to expect. But if you manage to get to a room in the darkest dungeon, you can maybe set up camp and then scout from there.
Another question, Chris. Does Dark Souls photography for the color palette, is that an inspiration?
Yeah, I think Dark Souls is definitely, you know, an inspiration for this game, tonally and everything. I haven't really like looked straight at the art and color sampled from the palette, but it's the same heavy blacks with sort of desaturation and little hits of high value stuff. So yeah, I've looked at it. I like it. It's definitely in a similar vein. I'm really excited for Dark Souls 2.
I am too. I beat Dark Souls 1. I had a lot of fun playing it. Not sure if I want to get in on it right when it launches, or wait for a PC version, or what.
I know. For me, it's knowing, like, if the PC version is going to be no more than like a couple months away, I might wait. But if I know I'm going to have to wait 6 months, I don't think I can handle it.
Well, they're being pretty cagey with the announcement of the PC version.
I know, almost as cagey as us with the Linux.
But you do have to worry about hacking a little bit more on the PC version, I guess.
Posters and T-shirts with this stuff.
Well, definitely pay to be an early adopter of Dark Souls 1 because it was so hard, and then they're like, oh, we just patched everything, and now we give out like twice as many souls as before.
Yeah, that happened right in the middle of our playthroughs, which was
I know.
kind of nuts.
Posters and T-shirts. We got the print as an add-on in Kickstarter. That's going to be like a big poster-esque kind of summary thing. I think we could probably turn these wallpapers into prints at some point. It's nothing we've really talked about, I guess, but it might be kind of cool.
Yeah, I know it's we tried to focus during the Kickstarter on, I know you've said before, like, we decided we weren't going to do the cups and mugs and stickers and pins and T-shirts and, you know, but the downside, I guess, is, you know, we're definitely hearing from a lot of you guys that there's, you know, those things might be fun, you know, to have and be able to connect more. And I think posters would be awesome.
I'm all down for posters and stuff. I just wanted to avoid like the bottle opener. You know, like some of those campaigns are just like so merchy, and it's just, you know, I don't know. I think it
Maybe
was
all
cool
our
to try
merch should be merchant themed.
Are there only enemies in dungeons? Shot glasses, actually, yeah, that's totally appropriate. Are there only enemies in dungeons? Well, I mean, there's...
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Where were you going with that?
Well, I was going to say, there's not just enemies to fight. There's, these sort of random chance events that happen. There's all these interactive objects. There's, camping. The layout of the dungeon itself is almost like a little puzzle you have to solve. So, there's more to do than face down enemies, if that was the question.
Right.
But will you meet, bros in the dungeon? You guys can, pop your collars and hang out? No.
Or are there enemies outside of dungeons?
Right. Yeah.
I
read it that way.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like in town or whatever.
Yeah. Because the game is so uncompromising, I guess. I don't want to say merciless, but we decided a while ago that, what you see is what you get in town, because there's so much rolling with the punches you're going to have to do in the dungeon. So we didn't want you to come back to town and be like, oh, check it out, your town hall just got burnt to the ground by raiders. Surprise combat. Because you might be, you yourself as a player might be looking forward to a little downtime after if you're coming off a particularly difficult dungeon run. So we didn't want to throw that level of wrench into the mix.
Yeah, thanks to the... oh, wait, no, we're not there yet. But we're approaching the town events stretch goal, 250, right?
Yeah.
So that's really cool because it does allow us to do some different things in town. But, we're not going to, put combat in town or anything like that. But there will be good and bad things that happen in town. It might be, oh, crap, alcohol shortage, right? The distilleries are down and there's no breweries. So sending a guy into the drinking part of the tavern isn't an option now. And that would be an example of maybe kind of an event that has sort of a basically downside, but then there also might be upsides. The opposite for that one could be, well, actually I don't need to use the same exact example, but
shaft of sunlight. Villagers have cloistered around the well, and it's just a nice day.
Yeah, or it might be the supplies are overstocked and they're half priced on this dungeon run, that kind of stuff.
One question is, will there be a quest to return to the other dungeons? I believe you're going to be returning to all the dungeons all the time.
Yeah.
It's meant to play through each one of them multiple times. The quest will vary what's exactly in the dungeon, as well as each attempt at a quest.
Yeah, it doesn't go ruins to the cove to the woods. Think of it as kind of your whole estate has been overrun and corrupted, and you'll take different quests to go make progress in the different areas. And so that way it allows us to do cool stuff, so it isn't just okay, skeletons are the easy enemy, and then you graduate to fish people. It'll be there's easy skeletons and hard skeletons, and easy fish people and weird giant fish beasts or whatever. And so you get to mix up your experience rather than going linearly just from region to region.
One town event idea that came in was traveling circus.
Nice.
I think that would be great if you could only get jesters that visit to town.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's perfect stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also that traveling circus might just heal stress for the entire roster. The entire roster heals 10 stress.
Yeah, everybody is just kind of having a good day. Even the leper is it's a cool parade.
He likes the carnival games.
Yeah.
Someone has asked a bunch about the can your characters freak out and kill themselves or kill others? And we're actually not dodging that question. It just hasn't come up to answer it. It's something we're exploring. I mean, when we originally talked about the game, it's something that we wanted to do, but it has to be in a situation where, it's one thing to take control away from you and say, oh, your character's gone afflicted and he's abusive and now he's doing an attack on his own and getting weird, or has gone fearful and cowers, during combat or whatever. But to take the character away and or to have it kill someone else, it just has to be the right series of events to maybe do that, to where it's something preventable, that if you keep pushing it. So I don't know yet if we're going to do that for sure. It's definitely on our minds just because those are ways that people respond to stress. It's certainly inter-party problems. So I don't know where we'll land on that yet, but those kind of anecdotes certainly were discussed all the way along when we've talked about the game.
I don't know if it would necessarily fit into the game mechanics, but I think talking somebody down from killing themselves could be interesting.
Yeah, it just might feel really cheap if you can't control it or you don't talk at them well enough, then you just lose that guy. The candle on his skull should flicker, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting parts, and maybe you guys, a lot of you that are backers and have been in the comments, one of the things we're still getting used to, honestly, about this whole crowdsourcing thing is that it's sometimes we voice ideas, but it's not necessarily exactly what we're going to do, or it's something that we're thinking about doing, and one thing we're getting used to is just the idea that sometimes if we say something, then if we change our minds later, then some people may be upset or may feel like we promised something and then didn't do that. And so we've been trying to be really careful about doing that, because part of development is being able to explore. And the reason we kickstarted is the game's not done, and that's one of the really neat things is you get to see it get made and you're helping it get made, and that's hugely valuable to us. But games change as you make them, and we figure out this sounded good on paper but then didn't work as we prototyped it. And so sometimes it's hard, for us to figure out how to answer certain questions, because we'll be like, oh yeah, we're definitely thinking of that, and we maybe even plan to do it, but we want to leave that little bit of wiggle room to say, hey, look, if it ends up not being fun, we're going to take it out. We're going to be merciless with the game in terms of if something's not working and we feel that we can improve the game by removing it, then we'll do so. But we're trying to be sensitive to what that ride feels like for the rest of you. If we change our minds on something. So I think that might be interesting insight for some of you. I'm sure you can kind of understand where we're coming from.
Will all classes be available at the beginning of the game? The plan is no. Some of them will, and some of them you need to earn by upgrading your sort of stagecoach or way station, or however the heroes will arrive in town. Accomplishing things in game. Some of them we've even thought of as Easter egg classes, so there'll be sort of some secrets behind unlocking them. So there's a variety of ways that you'll obtain classes. And although we'll make sure that you've got all the sort of basic, tools in your toolkit when you start the game, so that you can start to explore the combat system and learn how it works and have some fun. We definitely want you to explore the game world and work hard in the game and reward you with new and more powerful guys.
Yeah, the Houndmaster to us was one that really started that whole idea, and I don't know where it'll net out, but we're just like, oh, you should have to be in the woods and fighting a hound and then, tame the hound, and, I don't know if that'll happen, but that kind of stuff could be really cool, or it might be just more of kind of a progression thing that we unlock certain ones as you go.
Yeah, at one point we wanted to have a ghoul as a playable class. I still think that's an awesome idea, but it's like, what happens if you get, this guy gets bit 20 times in his life in the crypts while he becomes a ghoul? And we're like, oh, that's so cool, but, it's such a luxury concept that, almost like a novelty class, that we need to make sure that we have all the other kind of roles filled before we start really dabbling in that kind of playtime, I think, at least for me anyway.
Mm-hmm. The Occultist is the same way, where it could be something like, okay, someone's interacted with enough of these weird curios, and now basically you have the option to convert them to an Occultist or something. And, I don't know that we'll end up doing that just because of, it's kind of a priority of features thing too.
Plus, it might not, it might sound awesome to do that, but I don't know. Then I'm like, okay, I got to convert a guy every time if I want an Occultist, or who knows, right? It's just
character farming. It could end up being really fun or lame. You go to this trouble and tame a hound and become the Houndmaster, and then he dies, and you're like, damn it, not gonna do that again. Or maybe once you do it once, we open it up. I don't know.
Yeah, but it does sound complicated. That guy's like, sounds complicated, dude.
We did get a question about the save feature, and we're going to save probably after every action. So that's the plan, right?
Yep. That's
Yeah.
the plan.
Every single action that it happens will save.
Is the save expert still on? Is Kevin still there? Yeah, and the reason we want to do that is just it's a game where your choices really, like, in order for all these systems to actually mean anything, it has to be that way.
Yeah.
And that's very different. Normally, I as a designer, have a really permissive save policy. I mean, my attitude is, who am I to care if you want to reload your turn every time until your attack lands, you know? But in this game, it's just imbued in the creative direction and the core concept and everything. So we want you to deal with disappointment.
Yeah, well, we won't be able to entertain you as well if you can just reload. Like, that thrill of like, you know, maybe losing something that you're invested in is, I think, at the heart of what's going to make this game really fun and sort of exciting to play. You know, it's a turn-based game, and so those aren't necessarily always considered the most exciting types of games, but I think we'll get a real reaction from people if they're faced with consequences to their choices, and the only way to do that is to save often and all the time.
And it's different from, you know, I think where a lot of times, like, people get really angry at saves is, like, if I'm doing a mission in Uncharted and then it's like there's a tough part and every time I die I have to repeat, you know, like, basically how good are checkpoints and stuff like that. Well, here it's more like, okay, if you lose a character, you pick right up and keep going. I mean, sure, you might have to rebuild a guy or whatever, but we intend you to maintain a roster. We intend you to switch guys out. All those things are kind of what we're trying to get you to do, and we'll never. You shouldn't have to repeat much. It's more like, okay, that quest went bad. I'm gonna go back to town, regroup an army or regroup a party, and take a different quest. So
Yeah.
you won't be doing like the, oh crap, I have to fight these guys and get to the boss again only to die on that boss, and then I have to fight the same guys and get to the boss again and only to die on that boss. It's not quite the same as some of those like on rails games or whatever.
Someone's asking about the fingers. Here's the straight dope about the fingers. 3 fingers looks way better in the game cam, and so I started doing them in the wallpaper, and I regret it. I actually think this version of the character would look better with 4 fingers, to the point that I'm considering going back and changing all the wallpapers. That's where
Whoa.
it's... Yeah, no,
Save those wallpapers now. They're going to be collector's items.
Crazy talk.
No, but I think it just, this is a slightly less caricatured version of the character because it's like just a different context, right? So in game, having 3 fat fingers works beautifully, but I don't actually like it here. It draws my attention, and so that's where I'm at with it. I think I might want to change it all.
Honestly, the Occultist is the only one where I've actually noticed it not looking great. All the other ones, I think it looks awesome.
Well, this hand is shit right now too, so bear that in mind. But
4 fingers, bro.
Which
You
finger-
get a finger. You get a finger.
yeah, artist regret big time. I did it, and then I did the first couple wallpapers, and I was like, it's fine, don't worry about it, you're too busy. Don't think, you're too busy. And then I looked back, and I was like, god damn it. And then I did the Hellion wallpaper, and I was like, that hand holding a spear, I'm like, nope, bad call. So watch for that. We'll reissue all the wallpapers in a month or so.
Yeah, Game of the Year edition.
I don't want to have to write the update of, hey everybody, more fingers for everyone.
Yeah, it's the 4-fingered update.
Yeah, in this update, here's the big news.
Yeah.
All the characters have more fingers.
Remember the art you already have? Now you can own it again.
Does the leper have 4 fingers per
They
hand?
all are like. I've been consistent. You can't fault me for inconsistency.
Well, no, I just wondering if the leper lost a finger.
No, that wasn't part of the design because it's too small on screen. I can't sell that in the game camera. With the 2.
People are about that tentacle for sure.
There we go.
Every game start the same. Twitchblade. Basically, the basic setup is the same, but you're quickly going to diverge from that. I mean, there's really not a lot unique about the initial setup, so it's kind of what you do from that point onward. So you'll have like a starting party basically, and really quickly you're going to be building and adding to that. So depending on what guys show up in your stagecoach to recruit and things like that, it could change a lot. I mean, so you might be like, oh wow, I've got option to have a bunch of highwaymen right off the bat, whereas a different game, it might be you're flush with crusaders or something.
Yeah, I think we've talked a lot about the characters that show up in your town are almost like loot. After a dungeon, you check and see who's there. The missions themselves, when you check your map, they're almost like loot. It's like, oh sweet, I got a really, rare, profitable mission show up. So we're trying to inject that slot machine kind of vibe elsewhere in the game and apply the concepts of the positive reinforcement that people get from getting loot drops to other parts of the game to try and make those more interesting. So you might find that you get, we're not using the same WoW type of colors, but you might get the equivalent of, a purple quest. And you're like, oh sweet, it's been all grays all day or whatever. So I don't know, I think that's something that we talked about a long time ago and I think is still really cool.
The 500k stretch goal is extra fingers. I like it.
Yeah, it's going to cost us
$50,000. We might get some blowback from that one.
Thanks, everyone. We're happy to be here, and we're thrilled to announce that.
Yeah.
Yeah, not quite that, but it could be. Because some of the guys that you get that show up in your town are going to be experienced. They might come with certain levels of upgraded, gear. We might randomize that. You think? No?
I don't know. I guess I better start thinking about it. It's possible, yeah.
As a rare guy, it would be really cool if,
That's true.
You're like, I got a super rare crusader, and he comes with, one sweet quirk, and his stuff is already half leveled, and you're like, okay, this guy's awesome.
Yeah, that's true.
Most of them, I think, will come green, But
certainly some degree of starting, a little bit of starting characteristics, quirks, and then of course, if you're really eager for another class, let's say, right now I think there's 15, 16 classes. So, at any one time, you can't just go grab one of each. So sometimes you'd be like, man, I really want another Hellion to show up. And there's some things you can do to increase that, like we may give you some upgrades where you can basically put a call out or whatever. But it should be exciting sometimes when you're like, oh yes, a Hellion. I've been waiting for one.
Or you get one and she's not, she's got all these quirks that, kind of handicap her, and you're like, it's good,
Yeah, she's nervous and afraid of blood.
Also, the stats would the base stats differ as well per character?
Certainly speed, right?
No, not no. Per class. The way it's designed right now is per class, but the quirks would determine that. So, let's say you have a quirk where they're sluggish, then they'd have a penalty to speed. So yes, as a deviation in terms of what quirks you have, but it's not like you're like, oh, I need to roll another Crusader with the core stats. It's more about the quirks you get.
Rerolling would be a cool stagecoach ability.
Yeah.
You do an upgrade that gives you one of those Rogue Legacy rerolls.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of stuff would be like, okay, I don't like this crop of people seeking their fortune is just crap. So I'm going to refresh it. Yeah, I'm gonna refresh it. Or I don't want that Crusader. That Crusader is,
bad news.
Those starting quirks are really bad. So I'm gonna get another one.
We have questions of if titles are in the game. Are we just going to handle that by letting you name them the title?
Yeah. Currently, that's the plan. So
there won't be anything special, but you can call them the Sun God or whatever.
You can call them the Specialist Snowflake if you want.
Yeah, someone asked earlier about Resolve, whether it was a number or a title. At this point, we're thinking a number, but. Those are things that could change just because people do like levels and it's a convenient way to refer, hey, it's Resolve 6. And, it is handy to be able to just say that and kind of know what it means. And it may even equate with, generally, if you are Resolve 5 and you've upgraded all your skills to 5, and you make a party of those people, then they're generally good to go into a dungeon of 5 difficulty. You know, we don't want you to have to guess at everything. So I think that's one reason we'll probably keep some numbers there.
It's 7:30. We're in danger of
wow.
running long again.
Yeah.
Should we maybe just see if there's anything else we can talk about? I think I got a long way to go. I didn't finish this guy up quite as quickly as I finished the Jester up. Yeah, so I'll have to work on him in a little over the next couple of days. But we'll post him, and we'll post where is that guy? We'll post the Highwayman. Give a little preview there. So yeah, we'll get those up pretty soon. And yeah, just let us know if there's any more questions. Maybe we'll give it another 5 or 10, guys. Is that cool?
Yeah. Crows. Thanks for the crows shout out. Corlag the Bard. Big props.
Your check's in the mail.
Twitch fist bump. Yeah, I don't know. Actually,
tell us about monsters. Call me XI3.
Monsters.
Wants to know about monsters.
I demand monsters.
He really wants to know about monsters. That's a lot of
There
exclamation
are
points.
monsters in the game.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
There are.
Oh.
Awesome. Yeah, I like this. Oops. What is the blooping? What does that mean? Oh, maybe
That's
I
not
got
you.
So monsters are themed for every dungeon you go in. So that's why it was a big deal when we hit that $200,000 stretch goal, because we're adding not just, you know, another set of backgrounds. It's interactive objects. It's the curios. It's the monsters themselves. So that's why you've only seen skeletons up till now, is because we've got that set done. But they sort of will be living in the ruins of the castle in their final sort of resting place in the game. But every level has its own kind of themed monster pack that comes along with it. Thanks, Corlag the Bard. So yeah, basically, I don't know, what can we say? The Weald, the forest level, is going to have a lot of sort of, you know, hags and raiders and wild animals and, you know, that kind of thing. Conversely, like I mentioned, the undead are kind of taking up shop in the old battlements of your family castle's fortifications, and so the royal guard has essentially been resurrected, but they're all, you know, undead. Tyler, you want to do a couple?
Sure. I mean, the cove, which is kind of like the fish temple, I guess we've called it a few times. But that's got some pretty awesome, like, obviously Lovecrafting influence there. And one cool thing about, I think, the monsters is, like, this always demonstrates, of course, like, the different ways that we think even on the team, but I'm thinking about the different challenges that the monsters will present, right? Like, you've got ones that are really physically damaging, ones that are really stress damaging, but maybe not that tough physically, and then, you know, some that are just super survivable, and some that are really weak but incredibly damaging, and you're desperately trying to kill them before they get an attack off, and then the way they kind of combine, and that'll create needs for you to put different parties together. Like, you'll learn, oh man, like this class does really well in the Fish Temple because it's full of these weird poisonings, and this class helps mitigate that really well. And so we don't want to make it so like any class is useless in any zone, but you may find that, okay, look, Crusaders don't get their money's worth in Zone X because, you know, whereas when they're fighting the undead, that's amazing. We want you to put different parties together based on the monsters and the hazards you're going to face.
And most of the monsters will be dungeon specific, right?
Yeah, I mean, we unlocked that stretch goal for the sort of wandering brigands, and that's cool. They'll show up anywhere, almost like a rival group of treasure hunters that, you know, but they're much more cutthroat or whatever. So they'll show up anywhere, but generally speaking, yeah, all the monsters are going to sort of stay in their little areas, which lets us do really, you know, like, kind of tell a nice little story with each dungeon. You know, there's basically that the mistake that your forefather made or whatever, and whatever he managed to wake up or pull up down there has sort of been a source of inspiration for a lot of really shady people. So witches are gathering in the forest, necromancers are taking up shop in the old castle, fish people are swimming up to the surface because they think, you know, the end times are upon them. So it's almost become like the PAX East for the worst people in the world, you know?
What? Think tank. That's awesome.
One question for you, Tyler. Is there a way to track quirks, addictions, and afflictions before a character gains one?
Possibly.
I think that's cool. If you had a little bit, if it was something where you were afraid of something, having a little bit of warning of that in the quirks menu of like you've got critted by 10 of 20 skeletons, so don't let this bar fill up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's something that let's just say if we can do it, we definitely want to do it. Like the more that quirks have very specific logic for how they happen, you know, like, oh, I've been gambling too much, I develop the uncontrolled gambling quirk, right? Or yeah, fear of skeletons, and then that fear fills up. So I think that kind of stuff we definitely want to do. There's definitely a scope consideration in terms of you might have to trade off. What's that?
Well, just of tracking all that.
Well, it's kind of like we can do more quirks with less specific logic per quirk, or we can do less quirks with highly specific logic per quirk. And I think that's something that we're still figuring out. And we may end up doing a hybrid where some things don't really need logic; they just happen, right? But other ones, like fear in particular, you know, you're not going to be like down fighting undead and then hit your stress point and then suddenly develop a fear of the fish people, right? Like that's just weird. So we want that to kind of be built up based on your experiences. So I think what'll probably happen is we invest in doing some really custom logic for some quirks, but others are just like, oh, these just happen. You know, becoming clumsy can just happen. But
also that discovery would be part of the fun of becoming afflicted and getting quirks and stuff like that. Would be from experimenting or looking up online the different possible ways that things might happen.
Mm-hmm.
The class is going to have some special synergy with each other. I think that is elegantly designed in, but it's not going to be like in the menu. You know what I mean? Like, got a plague doc? You know, try pairing her with a highwayman. It'll be up to your playstyle. You know, some abilities are very, very highly complementary. You know, you might find that there's an ability that does more damage against a stunned enemy, so the character you favor for using stuns naturally pairs with this other character. But that's really up to you. You know, it's the sort of combat sandbox that we want to make.
Yeah, we definitely want to encourage people to give multiple different parties a try and different loadouts and experiment with the game. Yeah,
and we might do... So yeah, the synergies will be kind of like organic based on what the characters do. But then also, one thing we're experimenting a bit is some natural kind of like or dislike based on the class. I mean, it kind of makes sense that maybe the Occultist and the Vestal don't get along that well, as we've, I think, mentioned. And so where it makes sense, like I don't think there's any need to create like this purely balanced chart, but obviously like where a character seems to have a great, you know, like for instance, I could see the bounty hunter and the highwayman getting along pretty well. They're both kind of rogues they understand the benefit of profit and that kind of thing. So they might have a bit of an innate like for each other that could influence their reactions, and similarly the dislikes I think would be cool.
Somebody asking if the different characters have different carrying capacities. Right now we have one carrying capacity for the whole party, as far as loot, and then each character will have their equipment slots or their trinket slots. It's not really equipment, but
yeah. But something like the unannounced, unconfirmed, but confirmed and announced merchant, for example, you know, might have a benefit where they increase the total party inventory.
Or let you just sell on the fly.
That might be cool.
Like Torchlight. Like, I send my pet back to town to make a deal.
Oh yeah, you should have a pet donkey.
It was supposed to be a simple deal.
Chris always cracks me up because he used to joke about the Torchlight with the spider. Like, I send my very highly educated and business-like spider back to town.
He's a dynamo in the boardroom. He got to second last on The Apprentice.
I think the pets were the best part of Torchlight for me. Like having a cat summon skeletons, Like, that's just great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Like, I don't know, is the Howmaster dog gonna summon skeletons?
They got us on that. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can't read or write, that dog.
It feels like it's like going to the second level. It's like, oh, well, other games have had pets, so can you train your pet? Oh, other games have trained their pet. Can your pet go to town? Can your pet have a pet that it trains?
Oh.
And can that pet's pet go to town for that pet, and therefore leaving that pet to fight with you instead of be in town? It just
Outsourcing pets.
I mean, it's kind of like you always got to go to the next level, right?
Yeah. And we can't really just throw in a grappling hook, so it's all about the pets.
And for the record, yeah, Torchlight 2 was good. For the record, despite the silliness of it, if we could do, half as well as Torchlight, we'd be very happy. Petception, yes.
Well, maybe we should call it there and save some stuff for next week.
Yeah, it's true. We're gonna run out of stuff, huh?
So here's where he's at. Obviously, there's a lot of tightening up to do. I think there's something weird with his face that I'm not totally jazzed on. I think his eyes are maybe too high. And the three-fingered thing is... Well, it happened, so here we are. But yeah, thank you so much for showing up. There's been 70 people the whole time. It's awesome. If any of you are backers, we definitely want to thank you for helping support this game. It's been a really awesome ride so far, and it's great to have you guys along with us. We're going to be doing 2 more Twitches, Tuesdays, obviously for the next two weeks in a row at the same time, 6 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, same bat time, same bat channel.
So yeah, I had Tyler and Keir with me today, and I think they'll be joining us next time. Maybe we'll get Kelvin up on the mic, and yeah, thank you all for watching.
Yeah, thanks.